surprising amount of items. It unlocks a lot of stuff, and I think the bow is going to be the thing. Just a gut feeling.
And we're off and running, and looks like both runners are starting at Link's house.
Getting a full heart piece on the way down. Infinite Fluff heading to, looks like, part of the escape, while Chauncey is doing reverse Kakariko, try and get some of those 50-50 bombs out of these bushes down here. I like the Fluff carrying a sign all the way from about as far away as you can, and it immediately pays off by getting about 1 million bombs out of that tree pole.
And those bombs are going to pay off very... Oh, we got the gloves on Uncle. Uncle giving away his winter gear to Link as he moves on in his journey.
His uncle left his sword at home, but didn't leave without his gloves. And the book! Wow, that's a lot of stuff to come out of just that first couple of chests we opened.
I mean, I do my best reading in a cave. What about you?
I don't know, they don't have a light source yet. And the hammer from Sanctuary. Oh, goodness.
See, when you get an early seed with a lot of items like this, it sometimes doesn't bode very well, so I hope it continues on this pacing.
We're going straight into the back of Escape for Infinite Fluff, wasting no time, while Chauncey is making his way through Kakariko to pick up all the items here. Fluff is just right on his way down this seed to see what other items he can uncover.
You know, not a bad play by Fluff, even though it looks like it's going to not bear a lot of fruit. But when you get the gloves and you have some bombs, back of Escape's a pretty good idea.
Right. If he had just kept finding progression items, that could have just been the path to unlocking more stuff. I don't know if it would mean you'd never go back to do Kakariko, but it certainly would make for some interesting routing.
Well, chauncyjay got the Kuko glitch there as he gets another, looks like big 20 in the chest, and continues to scour Kakariko Village, and Infinite Fluff is going to do a tree pull here.
For even more bombs, just topping off there.
You can never have enough bombs. I've seen so many tournament matches during this tournament where people have actually run out of bombs, which is not good.
You'll see runners do some creative things to try and pick up additional bombs, utilizing shops you don't normally see, or farming more 50-50 bushes. Chauncey so far coming up basically dry in Kakariko. There's a lot of low rupees, a lot of heart pieces, and some equipment upgrades, but no real good item coming out just yet.
And the Lost Woods, same deal for Infinite Fluff. Nothing great, a little bit of, big bit of love actually, but so far this Western Hyrule is not turning a whole lot for these two runners.
Oh man, until Chauncey picks up the boots and turns this into an official speed run. It's gonna zip along all the way through there, makes the drought in through Kakariko almost worth it.
And to match those ruby red boots, chauncyjay gets a fashionable cape there. But again, the cape is sometimes not always good news at the early stages of his seed.
Yeah, having a cape this early might mean that they need to go check out Aghanim's tower, since that's one of the two items you need to actually gain access. The cape allowing you to sneak past the laser that guards that door.
However, with the hammer and the power gloves in play, it looks like the runners only need to find the moon pearl to make Aghanim. I would say make Aghanim out of play, but then again, an hour and a half last night, that was absolutely proven wrong.
We also, did we see, I think Infinite Fluff went and checked what the Lumberjack ledge was, but I didn't see what the item that was hanging out there is.
I also didn't catch the item, but meanwhile, the two runners looks like they're flip-flopping exactly their routes here, as Infinite Fluff is taking care of Kakariko and chauncyjay is taking care of the Lost Woods.
So once they're done with these two spots and kind of trading off here, where do you think they head next?
You know, I would probably go south, drain the dam, and then over to Mini Moldorm Cave. But then again, I am not playing in this tournament anymore, so my advice is not worth a lot.
It was chat says it was 3 bombs on the ledge, the lumberjack cave. So we know that's not going to force us into Aghanim's tower. And it looks like Chauncey's going to go get double confirmation for us to take a peek as well.
Zephyr, where do you go after all these moves? Do you go south or do you head for Eastern Palace?
I think with the gloves and the hammer, or with the boots, I probably go south because it makes taking that trip all the way down past Mini Moldorm Cave to the Ice Rod Cave much more tolerable. And taking that long walk is not so bad when you have the boots. And cutting that out, I think is going to be a huge thing that pulls them at least all the way out that far.
I think what it'll be telling is when we get a map check here, because if V27 has taught us anything so far in its short run, that pendant dungeons can hold quite a lot. So I would wager to bet that if Eastern holds a pendant, that the runners might head for Eastern as well.
Looks like Infinite Fluff is going to make his way through the rest of the escape. The places we checked so far turned out to have quite a few pretty good items, so we'll see if the rest of the escape pays off as well. Chauncey getting his first sword of the run. It's going to make the Mini Moldorm Cave here in a second a little bit easier to deal with, unless he dies to the crabs that do way too much damage for being this early in the game.
Oh, and Infinite Fluff got that D in Escape, so Infinite Fluff so far has been taking the routing. He's gotten very lucky with his routing.
Yeah, so much for my prediction. That bow is a huge item, because getting that before you go to Eastern means you can almost certainly, if they can navigate the rooms in the dark, they can pick up a completed dungeon pretty early on.
And both runners have shown throughout this tournament that they are very adept at the dark rooms, especially Eastern, which is, and I will say as someone who's a bit of a beginner himself, it's a bit easier to navigate than further down the line dark rooms.
I agree. If you're looking for dark rooms to learn, the two in Eastern are pretty low on the list as far as or the two sequences in Eastern are pretty low on the list as far as difficulty level.
So chauncyjay is checking out the Ice Rod Cave, which a lot of people leave, and sometimes could kind of come back to haunt you.
Unfortunately, we just get a little chip off the wall of the Ice Rod Cave for 5 rupees. The book and the hammer were in the escape, where it looks like Chauncey's going to head right now and try and collect those items.
And I have a feeling that eventually, with the gloves, which Chauncey will be picking up in short time, I wonder when the first runner will take a sequence break up to Death Mountain.
Here goes Infinite Fluff heading towards Eastern Palace instead of going south through Mini Moldorm Cave. Picking up that bow brings him out here, and I think it's really going to pay off. Hopefully he can get through this dungeon in one shot and not have to come back later.
Also, we see where a second sword upgrade will be once chauncyjay makes his way to Shamalama Ding Dong's house, as Infinite Fluff picked up his first sword of the game.
That's usually a pretty good sign for runners, that having to deal with the fighter sword or no sword for a long time can really prolong the siege. But if you can pick up a couple of those sword upgrades fairly early on, you can make the getting through a lot of these dungeons much easier.
Absolutely, and having the sword makes the game easier, more accessible, and certainly there's some dungeons that even require it, like Skull Woods, where you can't even swipe back the vines without those without a sword.
chauncyjay picking up his bow as he makes his way through escape as well. The hammer was actually in Sanctuary chest, wasn't it? So as soon as it's likely Chauncey was gonna save and quit out of here and head to Sanctuary to get the back half of escape, we'll pick up his hammer as soon as he finishes this sequence here.
Meanwhile, our fantastic tracker in the chat has mentioned that there was a very quick map check. However, we didn't quite catch what the map check brought up to our attention.
We can hear in the music that Eastern Palace is a crystal dungeon. I think that's crystal dungeon music. It's been a long time since I've had to identify it based on music.
Most of the time I have music going on in the background, so once we get another map check, hopefully we'll get a better sense. But chat is also saying it looks like Eastern Palace is a pendant dungeon. But again, pendant dungeons version 27 could bear quite the bit of fruit for these runners.
Plus, if this is the green pendant, that means on the way out we can pick up an additional item from Sriracha's house.
Interesting. Infinite Fluff has opted to save and quit out of Eastern Palace instead of completing it. So, a move that I'd probably make, but again, not in the tournament.
Well, finishing that dungeon at this point is a sequence break, so any items you have in there that you collect after the point that he got to comes with a little asterisk on it, because it may lead you astray. And some runners like to stay true to the logic, and it actually... doing sequence breaks like that can sometimes lead you way off base and take you down a rabbit hole that you don't need to go down just yet.
Absolutely, I agree with you. There's that flaw, and it looks like now we have some fill-in in our map. We have Eastern Palace and Desert Palace as pendant dungeons, and Tower of Hera looks like it is crystal number 6.
And chauncyjay is making his way through the the middle part of escape, where there's one treasure chest in the dark here, and you can kind of see him walking around through rooms that have a little bit of water in it. He's now in the room that has the chest in it, as well as some snakes. And at the same time, Infinite Fluff is taking a dark route through on his way up to Death Mountain. Should be coming out just here with the old man, as Chauncey is feeling his way around trying to find that treasure chest.
Dennis, the old man with the silver arrows. I wonder what he was plotting over there.
Looks like Chauncey found his reward, although it was not an item that lights up, so we may see in a second if he picks something up. He checks his menu. Doesn't look like it was anything important.
That menu check after Dark Room is crucial. I saw a race where someone didn't know they had Titan's mitts. Actually, both runners didn't know they had those Titan mitts for quite some time because they picked it up in a Dark Room.
Oh, that's true. He has the Master Sword, doesn't he? They got a sword upgrade. That's going to be huge. Getting the difference between Fighter Sword and Master Sword isn't that great, but having the Tempered Sword is a much bigger gap. If he makes his way over to Eastern anytime soon, clearing out these dungeons is going to be much, much faster if he can pick up that Tempered Sword.
Meanwhile, Agina has the Moon Pearl, which at least guarantees that we don't have an early Agaseed, so that is good, as chauncyjay is finding out.
With the book, it looks like he's going to take a peek into Desert. Sees Hookshot on the Desert ledge. both runners picking up all kinds of sweet items as we're getting closer to really opening up the seed and seeing what happens next.
You know, I've seen so many seeds lately where that desert ledge just has such a nice item. You know, maybe that's the new V27 thing, is that desert ledge being the ledge of promise.
Fluff trying to use bombs on the mini Wolderms, and then remembers that the Master Sword takes them out in one shot. Decides to just run across that little gap on the bottom and make quick work of them. Chauncey using his boots there to pick up that small key from the lamp. Although Chauncey does not have a source of fire, so he's not going to be able to complete this dungeon unless he picks up either the lamp or the fire rod in here.
That is very true. So, you know, I wonder, once Infinite Fluff kind of catches up on the items that Chauncey has and vice versa, then you kind of you have a Dark World access ready to go for you with that hammer and those gloves.
Having the hookshot also means when Chauncey makes his way up to Death Mountain, he can check the east side of Death Mountain at the same time. A little bit of efficiency in routing there, where Infinite Fluff will have to make a second trip up to Death Mountain to pick up all the items on that side.
That's true. Having that hookshot is crucial to exploring east side of Death Mountain. In fact, it can open up the route for Tower of Hera, especially if you have the hammer as well.
Chauncey still dodging that sanctuary check, but looks like he's going to make his way to Eastern. Oh, nope, going back south. Going into the Dark World.
Meanwhile, Infinite Fluff looks like he's fake flipping over to Hobo to see what he has.
Oh, Chauncey does have the hammer. He has. I was looking at the tracker, and when he opened the menu, he has in fact picked up that hammer. Of course, because you can't get into the Dark World here without it.
All right, we have an extended menu check, and once we have our tracker updated, I will let you guys know what that is, because I certainly can't remember.
There we have it. Looks like Pod and Tower of Hera is going to be our 5-6 crystals. And Pendant Turtle Rock will almost certainly be a cave full of treasure chests we go into at some point during this run.
Of course, because when you have Pendant T-Rock, you're going to find the Ice Rod and the Fire Rod early, and you're going to have to double dip in for a bazillion items for whatever reason.
Infinite Fluff about to pick up their Moon Pearl. Looks like just a few minutes behind chauncyjay, which is really just luck and routing, right, in the order in which you found items. There's not been a lot where these runners can really go head-to-head to see which one is more technically better. It's just been the luck of the draw.
Meanwhile, Chad is starting to scheme up some dreams about Flute on the pedestal, Fire Rod on the laser bridge. You know, after last night's seed, I want to give these poor guys a break, but certainly Chat wants a fun and entertaining race.
Fire Rod on laser bridge is interesting because you have to get a particular sequence of item placements in Turtle Rock in order for that to even be possible, and is particularly evil.
I would agree 100% with you on that one.
Fluff making the same check into Desert Palace, almost certainly a reaction to seeing the hook shot on the ledge there. since he also does not have a source of fire to finish this dungeon.
Meanwhile, chauncyjay is taking care of the grifting monkey Kiki to see what's in Pod.
Picking up a key in the first chest of Pod means we can take the efficient route through the center, and because we have the bow, we can jump off and take the most efficient route. CJ opts to save that key and make his way around this way, though. This allows you a little more flexibility in your routing in the back half of the Pod, because you are not required to use a key on that middle door.
And of course, as chauncyjay makes his way through Pod, of course, in the back of our heads is that awful dark maze room, which we've seen Chauncey maneuver before, and he's very good at it, so I have no worries at this point, but hopefully he finds something that makes it worth his while. So Infinite Fluff is going to pick up his hook shot here, and then it looks like he's going to save and quit, and probably, I would imagine, make his way into the Dark World very soon.
We'll see if he makes goes the same direction. Oh, he's choosing to go to Death Mountain, is going to pick up all the items on the east side of Death Mountain here, and potentially circle up to do the Tower of Hera at the same time. With the book and the Master Sword, you can also check out that tablet. This is a very interesting play. It's a different mindset than the way chauncyjay went, but it, I think, is equally valid strategy. It'll really depend on what items both runners find in their different routes to see which one is it would have been the correct way to go.
You know, I don't disagree with the play that Infinite Fluff is making. You know, the advice that people give is that if you can complete a dungeon, then do the dungeon, especially if it's a crystal dungeon. So, you know, it's not a bad idea that he's going to go ahead and take care of the Light World crystal at this point. But again, it all comes down to, you're right, what items he's going to find on Death Mountain.
Also, if there's potential that Tower of Hera is locked, basement locked, which if the big key is in the basement, he will discover he does not have a source of fire to be able to finish that dungeon.
However, he does discover the flippers, so that is not such a bad sequence break gamble on the part of Infinite Fluff.
It's worth noting, someone in chat actually pointed out, that all of Death Mountain at this point is still a sequence break, since we haven't found the lamp or the flute to be able to get up here. So just because he'd been up here once before meant he could save and quit and warp up here, but all of this stuff is still locked behind either the lamp or the flute, which we haven't found yet, from the logic's perspective.
That's right, and as you mentioned before, Zephyr, sometimes following those breadcrumbs down a sequence-broken path can lead you to a dead end, so hopefully that's not the case for Infinite Fluff, but we shall see. chauncyjay making the nice bomb jump there and finding bombos for his bomb jump and going in the back door of the dark maze.
This is probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest, dark rooms in the game. It's really easy to get lost. There's lots of twists and turns. And if you do get lost, it's really hard to recover. Looks like Chauncey finds his first item in the bottom right corner. He's going to start to make his way to the top left of the second treasure chest up there.
Meanwhile, Infinite Fluff, though basement locked because he does not have a fire source, did find the Titan's Mitts in the Tower of Hera, so that was not a bad find for a gamble on his part.
Which means we also get to see Dark World, East Death Mountain, the Hookshot Cave, and all of these items, this is a huge cache of treasure chests that is suddenly opened up to Infinite Fluff, all from a sequence break and not actually supposed to be able to get up here yet.
Chauncey just picked up a rod. I'm not sure if it's the blue rod or the red rod. I guess it looks like chat's saying it was the ice rod, which is really good because the ice rod could be really trolly in this game.
It's one of those items that you never realize you need right up until the point you can't live without it. It's only required for one spot. It's the boss of Turtle Rock. And you can make your way through the entire seed, get to the point where you need to have Turtle Rock, and if you don't have that ice pallet or that ice rod, it can really slow you down.
Oh man, chauncyjay taking the death to the turtles there. Feels bad. Those turtles are so obnoxious, and they can pack a wallop, especially with the green tunic.
That's true. Luckily, this is not a dungeon that has lots of little twists and turns, but it doesn't take very long to get back to any particular point once you have died or mirrored out. So hopefully he's able to recover just fine and it won't take him too much time.
Yeah, within moments, chauncyjay is back to where he left us and is heading down to the dark basement to see what items are downstairs in Pod.
While Infinite Fluff, picking up things in the Super Bunny Cave and the rest of the Dark World, finds the Cane of Burna, I believe is the way you pronounce that, Brian's cane here, which will make a couple of fights and a couple of sequences a little bit easier. There's some fighting Blind, Thieves Town, and potentially the Spike Cave on his way out. Both doable with that protective item there.
When there's one cane, there's two, and chauncyjay has found the Cane of Samaria in Pod, which is a huge find.
Both players finding items that are going to help them out along the way in their respective routes. It's only a matter of time. It doesn't look like this seed is going to have too much hiding and preventing our runners from completing the game. But that said, we're still missing some real key things before we can consider this this race in go mode.
Yeah, we are missing quite a few items, and looks like Infinite Fluff is going to go looking for yet another one in Spike Cave, because he has that cane, and he has the cape. Technically, by logic, he can complete this cave, so we'll see what hopefully he finds good in here.
With 10 hearts and not quite full magic, it's going to be a little bit of a race, but I think he's just barely got enough to make it through here. Unfortunately, only finds an arrow capacity upgrade for his troubles, but can put Death Mountain on the shelf for a while. Won't have to go back there, at least until he finds a fire source to finish off Tower of Hera and knock off Turtle Rock.
Meanwhile, chauncyjay is taking care of the turtle room in the dark, and I know that this is a difficult room to maneuver in the light, so I can only imagine that in the dark it's exponentially more difficult.
Esther, this is not a path for novice. We're going to try Bamos' strategy to clear out this room, and it is successful. I wasn't sure if the if the turtles would respond favorably to Bamos, but it looks like it dispatched of them in that room just quite nicely.
Pretty sure I read this science book once that turtles do not like fire and explosions, so I think chauncyjay is just using some of that science learning.
Meanwhile, Infinite Fluff, having been distracted with the north side of the map, finally takes a trip down here. Looks like we're going to go swimming and check out what Zora has.
Infinite Fluff has plenty of money, and it's a good move to take care of this all at once. You have Zora, the Zora's Ledge, and you have the waterfall as well.
And we find the lamp. Suddenly, everything becomes fair game. All the items we found in Death Mountain are suddenly in the logic, and Infinite Fluff is well on his way.
chauncyjay down to his last heart, taking care of the boss of Pod. That was just a fantastic end to that fight, and I was getting a little worried for him because that fight can be very unpredictable. Zephyr, what do you think Zora's giving away today?
Well, hopefully it's giving away the flute. Unfortunately, it's blue, but I wouldn't put that anywhere near my mouth because it probably hurt. Chat accurately points out that we, in fact, found the flippers on Death Mountain. So the lamp does not actually unlock all of those things. It's the other way around, which means that hopefully sooner than later we're going to find the flute, which will give us access and unlock all of that stuff. Plus, the flute is just a real nice quality of life item. Gives us access to Misery Mire as well, making it a required item to complete the seed.
Looks like chauncyjay is heading up to Catfish, which in this seed has certainly, in this tournament, has certainly shown his giving nature several times. So we're hoping yet again it will do so for Chauncy.
Chauncy doesn't yet have Titan Smiths as he tries to pick up the Dark Rock and is unable to. While Infinite Fluff using his Titan Smiths to go right into the Dark World without having to run around the backside there, getting his first look at the Dark World map.
Looks like Catfish is not feeling charitable in this holiday season. Only, I believe that's a tenor that he shot out there. So, sorry for chauncyjay, and he got catfished.
Yeah, this seed has been an interesting one, and it's one where sequence breaking sounds like it's going to actually streamline things a lot. If you really start to look at what you have access to, as someone points out in chat, the Bombos that is required to get to Turrock is behind a dark room in Pod, which is behind the lamp, which is behind the flippers, which is behind the flute, and it just gets very, very convoluted. But by sequence breaking, both of these players are able to pick up a lot of these harder to get items, or items that would be much further along in the chain, without having to double dip into different dungeons and different areas. It can really streamline their routing.
So it looks like Fluff is starting his dip into Thieves Town, which has seen a lot of prosperity in the recent tournament matches. So we're hoping, for his sake, there will also be a lot of good items in here for him.
Well, the first item we picked up is, in fact, that flute we've been looking for. Fluff is just having an embarrassment of riches here, while Chauncy is just making his way through different dungeons and making progress through completing the game. Both of these runners are getting a lot done, just on different paths. It's going to be interesting to see which one pays off in the end.
And Skull Woods typically in V26 was pretty productive, so I don't blame chauncyjay for taking this route into Skull Woods. As chat points out, Good news, everyone! Everything works again now that these runners are careening their way back onto the logic. Everything works again.
Well, you're getting to see exactly what sequence breaking can do, because while Infinite Fluff on the left has kind of skipped some of the steps in the process, Chauncey stayed relatively true to the logic, with a couple of minor exceptions, and in doing so has missed out on some items to really progress this scene along, things like the Titan's bits and the flippers, the lamp, and the flute.
However, I think we'll see, as in every single random match, if there can be an item that can hang up a runner and really change the tide of a match. So we're early on. We'll see what happens with these two runners as their routes converge and diverge, and they move on.
So we're about 35 minutes in. Let's look at what we're actually what both runners are looking for to achieve Go. We've seen what all the dungeons, what is all a crystal and a pendant. So what items do we need before we can actually put this one in the books?
Well, depending on what the pendant is, or the I can't even think of the word right now. Well, the thing is to open up T-Rock and Misery Mire. Thank you. Medallion, thank you. The medallion is, it could be anyone's game at that point what Go mode is going to be, but Infinite needs the King of Samaria and Chauncey needs the flute. So, I mean, both runners and the fire rod, so there's a few items out there that we need.
We know that Bamos is Turok, so we know where that item is. Between both runners, we've actually seen everything that we need except for the fire rod and whatever medallion is on Misery Mire. And the fire rod is not even necessarily required. I don't think. Oh no, we needed to get to the boss of Skullwoods. Okay, so we do need the fire rod. And the mirror to get into Swamp Palace. So only a couple of items at this point keeping us from zipping through the end of the game, but those last few items are always the hardest to find.
And of course, as our fantastic tracker Ryukas points out, we need the mirror too for that Swamp Palace run.
Absolutely. With any luck, it looks like our runners are going to high-five as one. Chauncey's going to likely go into Thieves Town right as Infinite Fluff is at the Thieves Town boss.
Hey Zephyr, did you know that broken pencils are pointless?
Broken pencils are pointless. Oh, blind. Always full of puns. Infinite Fluff taking an unfortunate death here. Fighting Blind, unfortunately. Luckily, that Blind is not a boss that takes too long to get back to, so not a huge time loss, but it is unfortunate to. It's always a sadness when you die to a boss, because it's nice to be able to get that out of the way and not have to come back.
And Blind could be a boss that causes quite a bit of anxiety. The fight is very hectic, so we'll see. Hopefully Infinite Fluff has better luck this time.
No magic this time. We burned all of our magic trying to use the blue cane strats the first time, and we take a second death here, unfortunately. Blind is really tough if you are not used to it. Low hearts. The swords don't do any more damage as you upgrade them, but they are a little bit longer, with a slightly larger hitbox, making the event or the fight a little easier. And Infinite Fluff choosing to put the boss on hold, knows that we've got most of the items out of that dungeon, and we'll just come back and take it later.
You know, I mean, Blind's the type of fight that, you're in it for too long, and I think sometimes you lose a little bit of that momentum, and you just got to kind of take a break and see what else is out there for a bit.
Yeah, there's a lot you can pick up along the way. You can get more bottles for additional magic if you need to use the blue cane. You can pick up additional heart pieces. You can get mail upgrades. There's a lot of stuff in the game that can make this fight a lot easier. And because it is fairly quick to get back to blind once you've done, there's no shame at all in just skipping it for now and coming back when you're a little more powerful, a little better equipped to fight that fight.
Those green lizards in Thieves Town are just devastating, and unfortunately, chauncyjay is finding that fact out as we speak.
Infinite Fluff, using the save and quit strategy to take the blacksmith home. This is a interesting quirk of the randomizer, that because of the interaction of the flute and access to, or that not the flute, but the mirror and access to Dark World, if you save and quit in the Dark World, you go back to the Light World if you don't have the mirror yet. And if you happen to have the frog or the chest, it will follow you into the Light World and allow you to complete these quests before you get the mirror.
Unfortunately for Infinite Fluff, the swordsmiths were the bombsmiths in this here scene, so they only gave him a 5-bomb upgrade. As chauncyjay unfortunately took a death in Thieves Town and is making his way back into the upper part of, or actually just the switch there just to get down to the basement. Looks like Infinite Fluff has activated Swag Duck, and so he's going to be making his way. Let's see, where is he going? He's going to the potion shop, which isn't a bad idea considering that it might be good to stock up on a couple potions, go back and take care of blind.
Yeah, with 2 empty potions, we've already spent the majority of rupees we're going to need to spend throughout this game, with the biggest chunk being at Zora. Which means with the cash reserves that he has, he can stock up on blue and red potions as long as he'd like.
chauncyjay is about to go make his heroic rescue of Blind and find out the shocking fact that Blind is actually the boss. Spoiler alert.
While Infinite Fluff took a moment to think about where he wants to go next, we're going into the Dark World via Kakariko Village, and it looks like we are gonna go back and take a second shot at that blind fight, which means we might see some side-by-side boss fight action here.
Ah yes, the boss high five. I feel it incoming.
Chauncey has a little bit lower health and no blue cane, while Infinite Fluff is fully stocked, and we'll see if Chauncey's able to make it through.
Infinite about to do his take 3, but it looks like he's gone back upstairs or back downstairs to rescue the maiden. I believe, however, that blind is already preset for him.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe he didn't pick up the big key or the big chest item, or if he just hasn't seen the interaction between or having to leave this dungeon and come back.
Meanwhile, chauncyjay taking care of Blind and making his way south Kakariko. Alright, Zephyr, number between 1 and 30, what do you think?
22. 6.
Going 14.
Oh, it was 6. We're both way off. Well, maybe we're confused about how this interaction works, because we certainly picked up the maiden in the prison cell. Broken pencils continue to be pointless as we get round 3 with blind here on Infinite Fluff's side of the screen. While Chauncey saves and quits out of Southern Kakariko after checking with the stump kit. We're going to see where he's headed next.
Just as he had the potion on the screen, Infinite Fluff takes the death to blind. Oh, man.
Chauncey activating his flute is likely going to go straight up to Death Mountain since we haven't been there yet, and there's a whole cache of items, a huge stockpile for him to clean up. He's really going to close the gap between the items that Infinite Fluff has picked up and what chauncyjay has.
Yeah, fortunately for chauncyjay and unfortunately for Infinite Fluff, blind has been pretty difficult for Infinite Fluff, but you know, a fight's so hectic. I don't blame the difficulty.
Yeah, this is for a lot of runners. This even experienced runners. This fight continues to be a challenge. Long into many runs in, but we finally get there. We pick up our fairy in a bottle, grab Infinite Fluff's first crystal.
Looks like chauncyjay made the dark room up to Death Mountain, and he's bringing home Gary or Dennis. I've heard him go by a couple names, and get his silver arrows from the old man.
Meanwhile, Infinite Fluff is going to take his flute, and hopefully we're going to see something we have not yet. Oh, he's going to go check out, he's going to go take his own path through the Palace of Darkness. Since we have a lamp on this side, we're able to navigate our way through those dark rooms with no problem. And so we just see the runners taking the opposite routes and just catching up with each other. This has been a seed that has been fairly wide open.
And the good news for Infinite Fluff is he's going to find that Cane of Samaria in the pod, so that will be a really exciting find for him as chauncyjay is taking care of Spike Cave.
We've seen Spike Cave before. We know that this is just a bomb capacity upgrade, if I recall correctly. Arrow capacity. At a 50-50 shot.
It was a capacity.
So once we get caught up, we're gonna have, if we combine the trackers for both players, because here in a minute they're gonna look very similar. We're gonna have a few things that we can go check out. There's still Turtle Rock, even though we don't have a fire rod. So potentially we can get, if we still, if that first chest is a key, we can progress through Turtle Rock quite a ways. Without the mirror, we can't go and check Swamp. We will be able to see Ice Palace, as well as and as well as potentially Misery Mire, depending on what the medallion there is. So, where would you head if you were in this position? You had these items at your disposal. What is the first thing you're going to go look for?
You know, I think I would probably go and try to complete Tower of Hera. I mean, I'm on Death Mountain, I'm checking the items here, I have direct path to it. And it's, well, then again, I don't have a fire source, so it's a really good question. That is a really good question.
Yeah, the fire source is unlocked by the flippers, which we're gonna find here in a minute. I think it's time to go check out Misery Mire. There's the cave, the shack back to the left of the entrance. You get the information of what the medallion you need is to know if you're heading farther or closer to the go mode. And I think that's potentially, and if you can open it, you can just head right in and start clearing that out as well. I think that's the next logical step.
Yeah, and both runners have, or will have, do have, sorry, the silver arrows. So Victorious with the silver arrows is a very quick fight. So I would say that Misery Mire, I would agree with you, Zephlars, is a really good call as the next call.
Fluff using the hammer to crack down on these weird bouncy enemies. The hammer does as much damage as the temperate sword. And both players, despite us seeing 3 sword capacity upgrades relatively early, neither player actually has the temperate sword just yet.
So Chauncey's about to find out that we are fire source locked out of Hera, and we'll be finding. We'll probably go to Spiral Cave next.
I think Chauncey was double and triple checking that we don't have a source of fire, being very disappointed that we can't finish this dungeon here. While Infinite Fluff finds his Cane of Samaria and gets 1 step closer himself to go mode.
So really and truly, this fire rod is kind of our last piece in the puzzle here for go mode. And the mirror, of course.
I think the mirror is going to be the next item we uncover. I think it unlocks a lot more possible chests. There's a lot in the overworld that the mirror gives you access to, as well as being able to get into Swamp Palace. And I just think it's much more likely that we're going to find that before we find the fire rod. Infinite Fluff. I think this is an intentional death, but we've discovered that we have a fairy, and so we're going to continue to stand in this fire, and we're going to warp out. Not having the mirror here, it takes a long time to walk back to where chests are relevant again. But we're committing to the intentional death. We're going to go back to the entrance of the dungeon.
Meanwhile, chauncyjay checking Dark World Death Mountain for some items. Attempted a really difficult hookshot block trick. You know, I still can't wrap my head around how one completes that, but made the attempt, didn't quite make it, but is rewarded in any case with the Cane of Burna.
Infinite Fluff here, going to use the Cane of Samaria in the same way Chauncey did to cheat this puzzle just a little bit, skip a short dragging of the statue to be able to zip down to the end of this dungeon, pick a fight, his own fight with Helmasaur.
I think the difference here is going to be now that Infinite Fluff has those silver arrows, Helmasaur in his last phase is going to be just a little bit easier for him to defeat.
Oh yes, in the same way sword upgrades make dungeons easier, there's a couple of bosses where the silver arrows really just tear into it. And the last phase of Helmasaur taking only a single silver arrow shot to take down.
So the question now becomes, when do we think that Chauncey's going to go ahead and check Zora and all of that piece of Hyrule? Because I believe, if memory serves, that is where the lantern was.
That's true. It looks like we're gonna go swimming right now. We might be getting that sooner than later. Chauncey also still hasn't gone to Eastern at all.
Though if memory serves there, I don't believe Eastern had quite anything of value, so that might not be a bad thing.
Sure. The one thing it does have is that green that neither player has cashed in.
With the lantern, I'm sure chauncyjay's...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, with the lantern, it looks like chauncyjay is going to probably start to contemplate that Misery Mire play.
I remembered the thing that was actually in the Eastern area, which is the third sword upgrade.
Aha, right you are. So, I do wonder eventually if Chauncey will make his way over to Eastern and get that third sword.
We're going to buy our expensive bombs here from Zora on Chauncey's side, while Infinite Fluff easily dispatches of Helmasaur. Not nearly the close fight that Chauncey had. Silver arrows making a huge difference there.
And at this point, both runners are pretty much neck and neck, both completing the same crystals, both have the same items at a quick glance, and it looks like both might be heading... well, nope, Chauncey's heading for Death Mountain again.
Chauncey's going to go finish Tower of Hera, while Infinite Fluff looks like he's going to make his way into Misery Mire. So we're seeing a very interesting seed with two players taking two very different approaches and still being very, very close. They both have two completed dungeons and all the same items. This is a very, very fun race.
And it looked like Misery Mire was Ether, if people could confirm that in chat.
Chauncey just taking a peek and then heading down to Mire himself.
Did indeed look like Ether was the medallion needed for Mire, so it looks like no Mire at this point for either of the runners.
Infinite Fluff taking the first venture into Ice Palace. With the Bombos, we're able to get past this first room, start exploring this dungeon. And also with that Bombos, we should be able to complete this dungeon as well as pick up 3 potential items.
So it looks like both runners are making this play, actually. It looks like Chauncey's headed that way for Ice Palace as well.
Only about a minute behind Infinite Fluff. Chauncey makes his way, just is relatively low on magic. Doesn't look like he has quite enough to be able to actually cast Bombos through this first room. Looks like he's just short.
And though B strats are good strats, I don't know that Stingers can make their way through the ice.
Chauncey going to cash in on his huge hoard of rubies and fill up his bottles with some potions, as well as topping off his magic, giving a little bit of safety for the rest of the run.
Though opting to hold on to the bees in the other 2 bottles, so maybe he's got something up his sleeve for later.
Bees don't do a whole lot, but there are a couple of points where it can at least be fun to watch the bee come out.
We got Infinite Fluff attempting the bond jump, and it looks like he will be accomplishing that in the first try. Nice job.
Nice. The infamous Ice Palace bomb jump can cause a lot of runners trouble, and Infinite Fluff does it with no problem at all.
And not far behind is chauncyjay with some potions in tow as well, so he'll be making quick work of this dungeon, I'd imagine, as well.
Both players still looking for the mirror and the fire rod, which could potentially be one or both in this dungeon with 3 items that we can find. But that means that we're going to see the full clear of Ice Palace, and probably not skipping any chests as we make our way through here.
So Zephyr, I have to ask, when you fight Cold Stare, are you if you had both, do you start with Fire Rod or do you start with Bombos?
I start with Bombos. I think that having the Fire Rod as that extra magic with the Fire Rod as a tool to take care of the second phase of that fight is way too valuable to just waste all of those shots. Even at any experience level, being able to shoot those Fire Rod shots and deal massive damage, I think is way too good to pass up.
I would agree. It's much less of a draw on the magic to do a Bombos start to that fight.
Even if you don't have, if you don't have the Fire Rod, you don't have much of a choice. But with, if you don't have the Fire Rod, you can still make use of your extra magic at the end by using either the cape or the cane to dodge some of the damage that gets thrown around in that fight. With both runners having green mail still, Cold Stare can do an awful lot of damage and really ruin somebody's day.
Yeah, Cold Stare hugs are not warm and fuzzy.
They are in fact very cold. Infinite Fluff very carefully trying to make his way across this gap with all those red electric jellyfish things. It makes it tough to get through that room.
Yeah, the room can pose quite a challenge, and I've seen some pretty advanced runners actually bomb jump that room, though neither of these runners have to worry about that with the hook shot.
Fluff getting a lucky full magic refill, magic being such a valuable resource in Ice Palace here. That it's really nice to get those random refills like that. Meanwhile, Chauncey was trying to do a similar trick as the Death Mount one you were describing earlier, and a hook shot through blocks to get to the big chest, but misses just barely on both potential blocks, so we're going to have to take a second try on our way back towards the boss. As Infinite Fluff, looks like we picked up our Fire Rod here in the Ice Palace. Exactly where you want to be finding it.
Seems like an oxymoron, the Fire Rod in the Ice Palace.
It's a little out of place here, but nevertheless, we are now 2 items away from go mode, now that we know that the Ether Medallion is required.
So you just picked up the Fire Rod, Zephyr, and you beat Cold Stare. Where do you go next?
I think I take the time to clean up a couple of dungeons. I think I go to Skull Woods and I pick up that crystal. And honestly, I think I go to Tower of Hera. I think even though it's a crystal dungeon, so it's only 2 items. We got to do it at some point, and I have plenty of fire to be able to take care of that now. And I think you need to clean some of that stuff up and hope that your needed item is on your path.
Chad points out a pretty interesting, and I think I agree with them, what they're saying. Saving Hera for the end could save them quite a trip up to Ganon's tower.
That's true, but it is one of the few things you can actually complete in this movie. And personally, I am a proponent of being able to complete something and trying to do it that way instead of. Well, you're still going to get, I think, one item out of Skullwoods at this point from the back half, so maybe that changes something. But we can't even get into Misery Mire or Swamp just yet. So if we don't have access to either of those, there's not a lot of other options we have.
That's true, and of course there's still another item, I believe, there's another item hanging out in Tower of Hera, so both are fair game.
We get our French vanilla blue mail here a little bit later than you would find in the vanilla game, but still in the Ice Palace.
Of course, that blue mail would have come well in handy for these runners while fighting Cold Stare.
Chauncey getting a much-needed refresh of magic there. He's a little low on health. We might see him utilize some of those items we have, either the blue cane or the red cape, to try and survive this Cold Stare fight.
Yeah, I'd imagine he's gonna Bombos in that first phase, then I would probably think that he's gonna go ahead and use one of those potions.
It's real dangerous to. He looks like he's going to go straight for the fire rod and try and muscle through this, which is a real tough play because he gets hit by one of those eyeballs, and I think it's going to do 3 hearts of damage and take him out in one shot. Oh, we get hit by an iceberg. He's going for it. Oh, and he does it!
Wow. Wow!
Meanwhile, on Infinite Fluff's side, we're going to see a pedestal check. We're going to find out whether or not we should buckle up and get ready for a long one.
Let's see what the pedestal has, and just an arrow storage upgrade, that's all.
For a low, low price.
About at the hour mark of the seat here, I just want to give a quick shout out to our tracker Ryukas and our restreamer Jacobs for Life. They are fantastic working behind the scenes, and I would give them a follow if you like them. I would give them a follow no matter what. I think everyone should like them.
Absolutely, both of them doing a fantastic job, giving us something to watch and something to keep track of while we watch these two fantastic runners take their second race in their bracket stage matchup.
Yeah, definitely follow these runners. I've been following their streams, and they're both very, very entertaining to watch, and very much dedicated to the randomizer and getting better every single time. So giving them a follow as well.
And as we can tell from both the last race and this race, both of these runners really evenly matched as far as skill level and game knowledge as well. They both are pacing within minutes of each other the whole time. This is a really fun match to watch.
Absolutely, and it looks like because of his earlier dip, Chauncey's just a hair ahead of Infinite Fluff, and so he'll be making his way into the last phase of Skullwoods here.
Now, Infinite Fluff took the time also to go check the pedestal. Well, Chauncey is not actually going to have that knowledge. And you have to wonder if that's going to be looming in the back of his mind for the rest of this run. Whether or not this is in fact a pedestal seed. And he should be taking the time to finish those pendant dungeons.
Something tells me he might go ahead and check that pedestal after the Mothula fight, but we'll see.
See a little bunny running around. And which makes me notice that this is a rare race where both racers are in fact using the default link sprite. The randomizer program allows you to use lots of different sprites and express your fan of different video game franchises or other things. But both players in this case opting to use the traditional link sprite.
Yeah, I think at this point there's somewhere around, I believe I heard a number 164 sprites running around.
Chauncey going in and taking his first crack at Mothula, and hopefully your only crack at Mothula this run. A little low on health. We might see him make use of the potion that he saved after Cold Stare. Looks like he's gonna keep dodging around. This is an intense fight.
Oh my god!
Oh man! He's got a blue potion. He doesn't want to use it. He's trying to save it. Oh no! Oh, we take a death, but we have a fairy. Oh, I forgot. Infinite Fluff used that fairy during a death warp. No wonder Chauncey's been so reckless with his health. We might see him be a little more cautious now. We're able to finish it, and we get Ether.
So that means there's a mire in chauncyjay's future, I'd imagine. So if I were to guess, I'd say he's going to pet check, and then he's going to head over to Mire.
Yeah, I think picking up that Ether Medallion definitely means we go to Mire over Tower Terra. I agree that routing that in as our 8th crystal makes the most sense.
So Chauncey going back into Skullwoods, just looking at that last item at the entrance that many people do. They'll fight Mothula first and then take a look at the item, which is the mirror. The mirror.
That's a mirror.
Is that go?
I think that's go mode. I think that's everything.
So we're 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 43 seconds. We are in go mode for chauncyjay, and soon to be infinite fluff.
Skull Woods hiding a treasure trove of items. And now it's just a race. We're just going to go as fast as possible through these last 3 crystal dungeons.
The unfortunate thing now is that, of course, there's no real incentive to go get that sword upgrade in Eastern Palace, so looks like both runners, if they don't find a sword upgrade in Ganon's Tower, are going to be going silver arrows, but Master Sword Ganon, which is going to take some time, but both runners have the capability to do so.
Yeah, I don't remember where Chauncey's other sword upgrade is, but it seems unlikely at this point that in go mode Infinite Fluff is gonna find it or stump on it at any point.
So it looks like there's a route divergence. It looks like Infinite Fluff is going to actually go to Swamp Palace, which in go mode is a pretty quick clear, and Chauncey's going to go ahead and take care of Misery Mire.
Again, both players taking a slightly different path, but it's going to end up, they're just going to end up crisscrossing at some point, and neither of them are getting huge advantages from their different routing.
At this point, all you hope to come across is maybe, I mean, I would say powder is always a nice safety to have. I don't know about you, Zephyr, but I always like to have powder in the reserves.
Yeah, of the items that we haven't picked up that are potentially things that are nice to have, another mail upgrade might be useful. Sometimes getting that second shield upgrade, the red fire shield, is nice because it can absorb some of those laser hits as you're making your way up Ganon's Tower. It's nothing that I would go out of my way to pick up if if I didn't have it. But as we're hunting here through Mire, and we're going to pick up one or two things, you're right, the powder's really good. The bug net, potentially, if you really want to pick up like a fairy. There's just a couple of things.
And of course, then there's half magic, which is always a boon to pick up, and hopefully these runners will run across it in their travels. But if not, of course, both are very adept at taking care of Ganon without it.
You see Chauncey not being shy about using that bottle as soon as possible to just keep the momentum going here, trying to find that big key in Misery Mire. While Infinite Fluff doesn't need a big key, and is just going to zip right through Swamp House here.
So far, this has been a very evenly matched race. You know, it'll be interesting to see who wins. Of course, if Chauncey wins, it will end the best of three. If Infinite Fluff wins, we will force a game 3. So, you know, it really, I think it's all going to come down to Ganon's Tower, as it usually does.
CJ does not have to do the long room in the basement of the Misery Mire. Gets his big key. Infinite Fluff, usually see picking up the chest along the way to see if we can't find either a sword upgrade or one of those other quality of life items we talked about earlier.
So both Chauncey and Infinite Fluff are making their way to the bosses of their respective dungeons, and will briefly be dispatching them very quickly, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we can see Argus here on the left, and now I forgot the name. Vitreous on the right. Wow. Woo. Both bosses actually get to take advantage of the silver arrows just a little bit. With the last phase of Argus going down in one shot, and despite the cotton balls here taking a little bit longer to take down.
Of course, there is some sort of weird obsession with the Zelda developers and eyeballs, so one eyeball boss down and the other is making its way there.
Just like that, 2 more dungeons, 2 more crystals, and we're going to likely see our runners crisscross and high five on them as they cross paths from one dungeon to another. This is about as close of a race as I think I've seen in this tournament from being this far back, right? Normally you see them kind of get to the end of their path, and they're going into Ganon's Tower about that same time, but they've taken different paths to get there. But both runners in go mode at an hour and 15 minutes or less, and both just hitting the last few dungeons. They're really, really close.
And as you predicted, Zephyr, both are crisscrossing. Now Chauncey going into Swamp Palace and Infinite Fluff going to Misery Mire.
Yeah, both players saving Tower of Hera for last, which means we're going to see just here in a minute just how close both of these runners are. There's still potential, depending on the route through Misery Mire, that Fluff loses a little bit of time if he chooses to go to the basement and watch the incredibly long cutscene. But we're going to see here in a minute just how close they are.
If Infinite Fluff goes for that cutscene chest, it's going to lose him some time, but I think the way that he's routing, he's going to avoid doing that.
Oh man, we're now at a point where both runners are just put to the test to see how well they've practiced their routes, how well have they seen and done these dungeons without having to hunt for items, how well can they execute on various things. This is a much more traditional speedrun test than you normally see in Zelda Randomizer, where it's all about solving puzzles.
And of course, both runners are racing, I think, with the adrenaline pumping for different reasons. Infinite Fluff for basically his racing life at this point. And chauncyjay is racing to shut down the best of 3 at this point. So, you'd imagine at this point, the nerves are at DEFCON 1 for both runners.
We're about to find out whether or not Infinite Fluff is going to check out the basement. This is where that route would diverge. If he goes into the left here, which we're going to see a cutscene, if he goes up like he is, he's going to go find that big key and make his way to Vitreous.
I mean, this could come down to, well, we have Tower of Hera, and I believe that'll do it.
Ganon's tower is going to decide this race. Oh, doesn't have a key! Infinite Fluff doesn't have a key to open the door! Oh no!
Oh man, at this point, even the small mistakes can push a runner to tilt a little bit, so hopefully Infinite Fluff will just get that key and go right on racing.
Oh, finds the back door into that room, doesn't go hunting for a key, remembers that there's a second way into this room. I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have been hunting for keys. I would have been so panicked.
Chauncey got the shovel in Swamp Palace, so he can bash Ganon over the head with it. To your point, Zephyr, this is where the skill level, the high skill level of these runners are really paying off, and Infinite Fluff finding that backdoor entrance to the bottom of Misery Mire was absolutely critical for him.
We can see Chauncey here dispatch of Argus with the Master Sword, choosing also to take double swipes and not necessarily charge up and spin. Slashing twice is just a hair faster. And with just about the same timing, Chauncey here finishes up Argus while Infinite Fluff is walking into Vitreous.
Infinite Fluff has got some low health, but I think with the Solaris he'll be able to dispatch of Vitreous without any problem, but he does have a blue potion just in case.
He also, I believe, did he use his red potion? I thought he had picked up a red potion as well. Apparently not. So now, until he doesn't choose to pick up another set of potions, he'll have a green potion to make his way to the end of the road.
So now for the runners, saving for the end of Vitreous, which is coming now, it really is a race up to Tower of Hera and then back into Ganon's Tower. And then I think we'll see the routing is going to make all of the difference for the runners.
Chauncey choosing to take some precious seconds to pick up a couple of safety potions. Doesn't want to take any chances as we make our way through Tower of Hera and then Ganon's Tower. We'll see if this is an opportunity for Infinite Fluff to catch up, or if he's also going to stop for some potions on his way up.
So Zephyr, you're one of these two runners, and this seed has been fairly kind to you. You're at an hour 23 in the last dungeon. What's going through your mind? Obviously, you haven't seen a dot done yet, and it's still early for a dot done. What are you thinking?
I have to. If I'm both of these runners, I have to think that I'm ahead. You know, Infinite Fluff with the various sequence breaks, I think potentially, of the two of them, I think if someone thinks they're not ahead, it's going to be Chauncey. Infinite Fluff has to feel like they're in a good position and just trying not to lose the lead. Where Chauncey did everything basically vanilla, didn't take advantage of too many sequence breaks, and has to be wondering if there was potentially a faster route that he could have taken if he had done fake flippers or found something in a different order. And as you would expect in this run, where two players take two different routes to accomplish the same task, you also see both players taking a different path into Tower of Hera. And Infinite Fluff, by not checking in and picking up extra bottles and taking the light side route up, actually pulls ahead on the way into Tower of Hera.
Hopefully he doesn't regret not picking up any safety potions, and I had a thought as these runners are making their way up Death Mountain. It looks like we may be able to, and we are going to avoid Turtle Rock altogether.
Yes, and Infinite Fluff gets to take a moment to take some deep breaths and really focus and gather our thoughts from the last stretch of this seed. Successfully gets the invisibility frames by switching those pistons with standing on it.
These runners are literally neck and neck as they are both in the towel room. Chauncey looks like he's taking care of some of those towels with pots first, and then he'll be doing the strat to take a little bit of a break here. But just barely missing it. Those towels are obnoxious.
Luckily, messing around with this does not lose too much time because this is mostly a cutscene. Infinite Fluff walked through that door at 1:25:56. And so we're going to see just what the difference between the two runners are. Looks like it's going to be just a hair over 30 seconds between the two runners at this point.
Of course, if Trolldorm has anything to say about it, this could certainly swing the pacing of Tower of Hera for one of these runners.
Neither player, or I should say Infinite Fluff, choosing not to pick up the easy chests in hopes to find a quality of life item, but gets bounced trying to dashing over that bounce, bumper, is real tough to do. It's a very, very short window that you get to try and run across there.
Of course, in Go mode, these runners are opting to really just pedal to the metal and go right to the boss.
Chauncey does pick up that chest, hoping for a sword upgrade or something. Infinite Fluff has no problem after a small bounce in the room before, learns his lesson and does not bounce off of Molder at all.
Chauncey's not far behind. He's going to go ahead and hopefully take care of Moldorm here, as both runners will soon be racing to Ganon's Tower, which, Zephyr, we have 7 crystals. Do you know what time it is?
I believe it's time to guess which chest the big key is going to be in. So there are 22 potential chests, if I recall correctly. Or item locations that the big key could be in. So if you're in chat right now, you should take your guess, pick a number between 1 and 22. Where do you think it's going to be?
If I had to make a guess, I'm going to say it is going to be in. It's going to be right side at the end with those noxious little red and blue creatures. I forgot their name, but I would say it's going to be there. What about you, Zephyr?
I'm thinking it's going to be in Bob's chest. Whether or not, I'm not sure if we're actually going to see Bob. I think we're going to see a small key on that lamppost But I think Bob's going to be guarding the big key.
So Chauncey picks up my favorite safeties because it's a powder, and he also gets a bee in a bottle, and he's going to go left side after that. So that will of course put him left side, and we'll see what he can pick up.
We see Quake here on the thing. So Bob, we will the potential to see Bob still alive. There's a visual glitch for those who are unfamiliar. There's a visual glitch that happens to an anti-fairy in a room later in the dungeon if there's still an item on that lamppost. Since we chose not to pick up that Quake medallion, we may get to see him if we get that far.
Chauncey picking up a bevy of keys in the first room on left side, or second room on left side, as he hookshots across.
Unfortunately, all of those keys are small keys, so we are still on the hunt.
Chauncey gets a nice refresh there with a piece of heart as he continues his left side journey.
The time difference between these two runners is so small that just the slightest error, getting accidentally bumped by a spike, getting tripped up somewhere could mean the difference at this point.
This race has become mesmerizingly close as both runners continue their left side journey.
Chauncey dropping bombs along the way with no regard for the interior decoration of Ganon's tower.
Well, I mean, he just blew out a load-bearing wall, so obviously he doesn't care.
Well, we find our red shield and a red mushroom and a red ruby.
So I guess you could say that was a red room.
I'm very glad when references line up. It's so good. Unfortunately, that fourth item wasn't red. At any rate, we're gonna see we're gonna see Bob's chest. Here we go. Here's my prediction.
All right, Sunflower, let's see if your prediction holds up.
After an epic fight, we see just a little bit of love and the not guaranteed but first of the boss rush bosses, the Ice Armos. Not content with being left out of this race, the Armos Knights get their 5 minutes of fame and are guarding a vanilla big key. And Chauncey takes a moment to pick up half magic as well. That half magic might be huge. If Infinite Fluff doesn't stop and pick that up, that might be something that makes a difference here at the end.
If I'm not mistaken, that is actually is that the vanilla big key location?
It is, in fact, the vanilla big key location.
So this race continues to be excruciatingly close between these two runners, and this Master Sword Ganon, I think, is going to put both to the test.
Man, Infinite Fluff chooses to pick up the half magic as well. We can't let a little thing like running out of magic stop us. Our runners here are just 3 screens apart as we make our way up the gauntlet.
Chauncey, I think, in a bid for time, is going right past that refresh room. He doesn't really need it at this point, and making his way to room 1 of the gauntlet.
Fluff taking just a little bit longer to line up those first mimics, but dispatches the second set of mimics with ease. And Chauncey having a little bit of Master Sword trouble taking out those skeletons in the previous room. These lasers are not doing any favors either.
Of course, you're this close toward the end. I'd imagine again, both runners have to be incredibly nervous as they run through their gauntlet.
Yeah, any safety or confidence that you had before you started, as soon as that time starts to tick up past that 130, 135 mark, if you're in Ganon's tower, you don't know. There's no way you think you're ahead. Both of these players think they're behind. They both are racing against the clock and just trying to be the first one to cross that finish line.
Chauncey is about to take on, now I can't remember the name of this boss, but
Landmines.
you can help me. Landmines, my lord, this is the commentator curse of forgetting everything. And it looks like he switched from Silver's right to that fire rod.
I don't blame you. This race is intense. Our adrenaline is high too. Both of these racers are in this room at the same time. This is insane how close these runners are.
Chauncey pulling off a nice cane of Samaria there and moving forward in his rise to the top of the tower. So again, these runners are so close.
Chauncey almost goes to pick up that fairy before he realizes he already has full health. Infinite Fluff dispatching those wizards just as fast.
I think our restreamer Jacobs, our fantastic restreamer, has said it best. If you were anywhere on the edge of his seat, he'd be sitting on the floor.
Here in just a couple of rooms, we're going to see the second Moldorm fight, which, if there's going to be a spot that determines this race, there's two things left that could cause our runners trouble. It's the Ganon fight and the Moldorm fight.
Zephyr, do you think either of these runners at this point are going to invalidate their run with that last chest?
I think it's tradition. I think both of them are going to. Chauncey, using strategies, holding his sword out to keep from falling off the ledge, just barely surviving. Oh, man. Oh, but takes a fall.
No.
We're both going to be jumped down Infinite Fluff. Just like that, Infinite Fluff comes out a little bit ahead using those hammer strats. Oh, and then Infinite Fluff takes a fall as well as Chauncey. This is insane. Oh my
gosh. The Moldorm giveth, the Moldorm taketh away.
Chauncey committed to the Master Sword spins. Infinite Fluff having to be a little bit closer takes another fall. Chauncey needs one more hit, but takes a fall. No! Let's see if Infinite Fluff can manage to get 3 hits with this hammer is all we need.
Moldorm is being extra trolly, extra trolly.
Oh man, every one of those slams on the floor made my heart stop. But we did it! Infinite Fluff has taken down Moldorm 2. We're going to make our way across this gap, and we're going to find an Aghanim fight. We validate the run, picking up our compass.
gotta tell you, it's like knees weak mom spaghetti watching this running.
Chauncey finishes off Moldorm. Also validates, picks up his compass. Gonna point him right to the end. Our first lineup, we get a single from Infinite Fluff. This is actually, I didn't think of this before, but this is another fight that can really pull these two runners apart with getting these multiple hits from Aghanim here.
Of course, the last thing that's going to hold these runners to the test, I'm not even going to say the word, I'm just going to say the first letter, which is F. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to curse either of them.
Chauncey pulls out a B, takes the time to see if the B does anything to Aghanim here.
The B stress.
We get a triple from Chauncey. That's going to make up a huge amount of time as Infinite Fluff takes Aghanim down. Misses on that run. Oh, a second miss. They're gonna, looks like they're gonna end on the same number of, maybe one fewer for Chauncey. But there we have it. Looks like the same number of Aghanim's phases. Infinite Fluff drops into Ganon's lair, and we're gonna see a Master Sword Ganon. We have to do spins for this fight. We're going to see which of these two runners has had more experience, had more practice, is able to navigate this fight with a Master Sword. This is intense.
This is still anybody's game at this point. Literally anybody's game.
Infinite Fluff using a blue potion there. Chauncey looks like he has a blue potion as well in the tank still. Point out the golden bee. Taking a moment for a little bit of swag. Hopefully that's not the difference between these fights. I don't think menuing at that point is going to make that much of a difference, but this is so close, it's hard to tell.
Infinite Fluff, of course, using those cape strats to take care of some of the spin attacks on Ganon, which is a very smart move at this point.
Infinite Fluff makes it to the next phase with Ganon. Chauncey, right behind, gets in that bottom spot with the cape there and is going to get double hits. This might be the strategy that pulls him ahead. Infinite Fluff still in phase 2. Chauncey's out of magic. Still has a blue potion in the tank. Both players pot up.
This is one of the most exciting conclusions I've seen in this tournament so far.
Infinite Fluff makes it to phase 3 first. The bee desperately trying to help Chauncey get past this phase. Chauncey's also in phase 3.
Chauncey low on health, you better be careful, hoping that no more of those fire bats come out.
Infinite Fluff misses his first silver arrow.
Ganon just bouncing around the room, trolling both runners.
Say this is so close. We just have to watch. Almost gets a double on Infinite Fluff's side.
This is intense.
Oh, misses the double. Oh no! Infinite Fluff misses. Chauncey gets the kill!
Oh my god, he does it!
With the bee floating above his head, chauncyjay gets the win.
chauncyjay with an official SRL time of 1:44:50. No, I'm sorry, that's Infinite Fluff. chauncyjay is 1:44:02, and Infinite Fluff 1:44:15. 13 seconds.
What a race! Oh my gosh, that was incredible. Neck and neck for the last 20 minutes. Half an hour. For the last half an hour, these racers have been neck and neck. They both hit go mode just before 1:15 and have been pacing each other ever since, back and forth, edging out. The incredible Moldorm fights. Oh man, what an end to an incredible series.
And that, of course, will advance chauncyjay into the next round. And hopefully, I see him in the waiting room. We can pull him in for a post-race interview. And I need to ask him about his B strats.
chauncyjay, welcome. What an absolutely incredible race.
GG, man.
I tried so hard to throw it away, but apparently I couldn't.
Oh man, no, you got to go back and watch this VOD when you get a chance. You both fell about 100 times to Moldorm 2.
Oh
You guys were
God,
like screen for screen, neck and neck for the last half an hour of your race. One of you went to Misery when he went to Swamp Palace. You went to Swamp Palace when he went to Misery Mire. You both went to Hera last. It was you were ahead by a couple of screens in Ganon's Tower, then he was ahead by a couple of screens in Ganon's Tower. Oh my gosh, I've never seen a race so close.
Wow, that's insane. I thought I was either very far ahead or very far behind, which is why I released the bees, as it were.
Infinite Fluff, GG, man. 13 seconds behind is literally nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, GG, dude.
That was, I mean, you can't expect a win after you died, you know, a dozen times to blind, so it was a pretty frustrating race for me, especially when it ended up being that close, because I anticipated losing by a lot right up until the very end, when
So did I.
I was desperately trying to get those silvers into Ganon, and it was just like, well, maybe there's a chance, and then I'm watching him explode, and I see the dot done pop up, and I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, getting sniped is always a rough way to get knocked out. But I mean, honestly, this was one of the best. Not just this race, your series, both the race last night and this race today, were both incredibly close, and you should not feel disappointed. Like this was an incredible series of races.
Oh, I'm not disappointed at all. Chauncey was the best opponent I've played thus far, and I mean, I never expected to make it even this far, so I was super satisfied before I even started these matches.
Yeah, same here, dude. This was definitely the best set of races that I've had ever. Like, you were a really good opponent, and it was very, very close, and I'm glad to have done this.
I mentioned to Chauncey before you got in the room, you should go back and watch this VOD from about an hour and 15 on the clock in, because you both hit go mode basically the same time. You could go back to the start. Both of you took very different routes through this seed, and like somehow both ended up on go mode basically the same time with the same dungeons left, and this was incredible to watch two fantastic runners take two very different strategies and different takes on a route through a seed, and basically end up at the exact same point at the exact same time. This was an unbelievable race to watch.
Incredible. I mean, the skill that you both demonstrated. I gotta tell you, I'm looking at my watch right now, and I met my calories for the day just sitting here and like heart pounding, watching both of you just crisscross high roll, converge at the very end, and literally seconds apart finish this race. It was the most amazing thing I've seen this tournament.
Well, I'm definitely, after this, Chauncey will move on. I'm sure he'll do great, but I'm gonna go and grind out some blind fights.
Yeah, I got to practice some dungeons myself. I ended up taking quite a few more deaths than I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
And I gotta say to everyone watching, please follow these two runners, chauncyjay and infinitefluff. They are amazing. They are fantastic to watch. And also follow our phenomenal restreamer, Jacobs for Life, and Ryukas, who was our tracker through this really exciting race where it must have been incredibly difficult to pay much attention to the task at hand, watching two skilled runners just battle it out.
Yeah, having to track this particular race seems like it's a nightmare because both of you took different routes, getting different items along the way, and it would be 20 minutes before you guys switched spots, and suddenly the other one was picking up all the stuff that the first one got. Like this was a treat, and I'm very glad to have gotten to watch it, and thank you guys for putting on such a great show for us.
Yeah, I hate to ruin it, but my strategy at the beginning was just, you know, I knew I had to win, but I was happy if I didn't even. So I was just kind of like, let's go this way. Let's go this way. And it wasn't until I started gathering a few items that I'd really piece together anything. So
yeah, you took some interesting. You did a lot more sequence breaking than Chauncey did, and ended up picking up some like you went through Death Mountain way earlier, and ended up picking up things like the flippers and the Titan Smiths, and really took you on a different route through the game. At a certain point, did you think that you were that was going to be the thing that gives you an advantage, or because of the distribution of items, did you think it was going to be relatively close?
I thought for sure that I had lost the race after my second death to blind. The only thing that really gave me any hope for salvation was how deep the fire rod was into Ice Palace. I just hoped that Chauncey was digging elsewhere to potentially go mode Ice Palace, because people don't like to dig into it if they don't have to. And with how far in there it was, you know, it's like, okay, maybe he missed it. Maybe I still have a chance here.
So I gotta ask you guys, and I always like to ask at the end of the seed, what is one thing you've learned, one thing that you will do differently next time?
Not die to the same boss over and over again.
I would say that I probably wouldn't have sequence broken pod in quite the way that I did. I think I took a little bit too much extra time doing it right off the bat without the lamp. I did get it done, but I think I just spent too much time trying to do it as opposed to like going and getting a lamp, which was actually in a pretty easy to find location.
Yeah, Chauncey, you when you went through and finally found the flute and made your way up to Death Mountain, when you found all those items, did you think at all about the fact that you could have sequence broke and found this stuff earlier? Like, was that going through your mind at all, or were you just focused on what was in front of you and what was next?
I imagine, based on what happened in our match last time, I imagine that Fluff was sequence breaking up to Death Mountain basically immediately. So I decided to continue on my path specifically because it was something different, and I was hoping that would get me some kind of advantage. I stopped doing sequence breaking after that. The only dark room I did, I think, was the Old Man to get silvers, but that's because that also gets the save and quit spot, which is really, really valuable. And I was just really focusing on like, all right, what is the seed telling me to do? And that led me to Ice Palace with Bombos, and that's why I full cleared it, got the fire rod. The fire rod led me to Skull Woods, which ended up putting me in go mode. So I think that it was successful in that I kept on doing what I was doing rather than worrying about what my opponent was necessarily doing.
It's interesting that you were by not thinking about you started off with I'm pretty sure that my opponent is going to take this path, and so I'm going to follow the seed, and then ignoring like having that be part of your decision making as trying to eke out an advantage. I think is a really interesting tactic to take in this specifically in a tournament setting when you are one-on-one against a particular opponent.
Yeah, I guess I'm lucky in that it kind of didn't work out for both of us, but it worked out less worse for me.
Well, I know that I'm gonna at some point queue this race up again. Even though I lived through it, this was such a fun race to watch, and it was so incredibly close that this is one for the ages. And so thank you both. Thank you for the trackers and the restreamer, and of course my co-commentator. I really appreciate you sharing this and going on this journey with me as well.
Zephyr, it was a ton of fun. GG to the runners. Thank you so much to our restreamer, to our tracker. And fittingly enough, this was the last race of the night, so you all can take a deep breath and join us tomorrow on any of the Speed Gaming channel, link to the past Randomizer channel, Randomizer Mania 1 through 4. Races are going to keep going all through Christmas and all the way to the New Year, to the end of the tournament.
Yeah, thank you guys for commentating, and thank you for streaming this. It was a lot of fun racing.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the stream, and that's my previous restreams. I played pretty terribly, so I'm happy that I went out on a good race.
Yeah, man, that was a fantastic race. We should just like queue up and race against each other sometime again.
I will always be down. I mean, it seems like pretty much any match we do is going to be close, so.
Awesome. Well, with that, I think we're gonna call it a night. Thank you all for watching, and enjoy future races.
Have a good night, everyone, and thanks again to everyone who participated in tonight's race.